The hall looked like something out of a dream. Soft golden lights hung from the ceiling, shining down like quiet stars. Crystal glasses caught the light and reflected it across the room. Tables were covered in white cloth so smooth they almost looked unreal. Gentle music played in the background, just loud enough to feel important, but not loud enough to distract the guests. People arrived in expensive clothes. Shoes clicked softly on the polished floor. Laughter filled the air, light and careless. Conversations floated around about success, travel, deals, and plans. Everyone seemed confident, comfortable, sure of their place in the room. And moving silently among all of them was the waitress. She wore a simple black dress, the white apron tied neatly at the back. Her hair was pulled into a clean bun. No jewelry, no bright colors, nothing that stood out. She moved carefully, holding trays, placing glasses, stepping aside when guests passed. She had learned how to be invisible in places like this. Most people did not look at her face. Some did not look at her at all. If a glass was empty, she filled it. If a plate was finished, she took it away. A few guests nodded at her without thinking. A few spoke to her without looking up. None of them wondered who she was, where she came from, or what she carried inside her. But inside her, there was noise. Not the noise of the party, but something deeper, something heavy, something that had been with her for many years. As she walked across the hall, her eyes kept drifting to one corner of the room. There stood a grand piano. It was black, polished, and elegant. Its surface reflected the lights above. The lid was open, showing the strings inside resting quietly. It looked untouched, waiting. Every time she passed it, her step slowed. Just a little, her fingers twitched without her noticing, as if they remembered something her mind tried to forget. The piano was not just an object to her. It was a memory, a feeling, a part of her life that no one in this room knew about. She remembered a smaller room, a quiet one, old walls, a piano that was not perfect, with a few keys that stuck, long evenings spent sitting alone, practicing again and again. The sound of music filling empty spaces. Dreams that felt so close back then. Life, however, had other plans. Dreams are easy when you are young. They are harder when responsibility arrives. She had learned that lesson early now. Instead of practicing, she worked long hours. Instead of applause, she heard orders. Instead of believing in the future, she focused on getting through the day. Still, the piano never truly left her as she served drinks to a group near the stage. She overheard their conversation. They were talking about music, about talent, about how rare it was to find something truly moving anymore, she wanted to say. Something, anything. But she didn't. She just smiled politely and walked away. The music playing through the speakers suddenly stopped. At first, no one noticed. Conversations continued. Glasses clinked. Laughter rose and fell. Then the silence began to feel strange. Guests looked around. Some frowned. Others checked their phones. A few waved toward the event staff with annoyed expressions. Whispers started. What happened to the music? It was fine a moment ago. This is awkward. Someone laughed, trying to break the tension. But it didn't work. The silence grew heavier. The piano stood there, untouched. As if it had been waiting for this exact moment, the waitress stood near the edge of the room, holding a tray. Her heart started to beat faster. She knew that silence. She had felt it before. Right before music begins, her eyes moved to the piano again. This time, she didn't look away. Her hands felt warm, her palms slightly wet. A thought crossed her mind. Soft at first, then louder. I could play. The idea scared her. Who was she to do that? This was not her place. This was a luxury event. Important people, rules, expectations. She was here to serve, not to perform. She imagined the faces turning toward her, the confusion, the judgment. She imagined someone stopping her, asking who she thought she was. She imagined losing her. Job taught her stomach tightened. She took a step back. Then another. She tried to focus on her work. On the tray, on the table in front of her, but the silence stayed, and the piano waited. She remembered the nights. She practiced even when her fingers hurt. The way music made her feel understood when nothing else did. The way it gave her peace when life felt too heavy. She remembered being told, more than once, that dreams don't pay bills. She remembered choosing work over passion, survival over hope. The silence in the hall felt different now. It felt like a question. Someone near the front cleared their throat loudly. Another guest sighed. The event organizer whispered urgently to a staff member. Nothing happened. Time stretched. The waitress felt something change inside her. It wasn't confidence. Not exactly. It was tiredness. Tired of hiding. Tired of pretending that part of her didn't exist. Tired of being unseen. She looked down at her hands. These hands know how to do more than carry plates, she thought. Her heart pounded so loud she wondered if anyone else could hear it. Slowly, carefully, she placed the tray down. She took one step toward the piano. No one noticed. She took another. Still nothing. Her breath felt shallow. She could turn back. Even now, then she reached the piano. She stood beside it, feeling its presence, its smooth surface, its quiet strength. A guest nearby finally noticed her, their eyebrows lifted in confusion. Another person followed their gaze. Whispers began again, softer this time. What is she doing? Is she allowed to be there? The waitress felt every look like a weight on her shoulders. Her hands shook as she pulled the bench back and sat down. The room seemed to hold its breath. She placed her fingers gently on the keys. For a moment, she didn't move. Her mind raced. This is a mistake. This is not your world. You don't belong here. Then another voice spoke inside her, quieter but stronger. You belong to the music. She closed her eyes and the first note rang out, clear, soft, honest. Sound floated through the hall like a secret. Being shared, a few people turned fully toward her now. Some looked surprised. Some annoyed. She kept playing. The second note followed. Then the third. Her fingers remembered what her life had tried to erase. The music began to flow. Not loud. Not dramatic, just real. Each note carried something she could not say. Words, loss, hope, fear, love, strength. Conversation stopped, one by one. Guests fell silent. The waitress did not look up. She didn't need to. She was no longer thinking about the room, the people, or the risk. She was thinking about every moment that led her here, every choice, every sacrifice. The piano answered her emotions with sound, and for the first time that night, the hall felt truly alive, but she did not know yet what this moment would cost her, or what it would give her. The music continued to flow through the hall. At first, it felt soft, almost shy, like it was asking for permission to exist in that space. Then it grew stronger, not louder, but deeper. Every note carried feeling, not the kind trained for show, but the kind shaped by life itself. People stopped shifting in their seats. Glasses remained untouched. Even the air seemed still. The waitress sat straight at the piano, her back calm, her shoulders steady. Her fingers moved with care, but also with freedom. She was not trying to impress anyone. She was simply telling her story the only way she knew how. Some guests leaned forward without realizing it. One person near the front felt a tightness in their chest. They didn't understand why. Another wiped their eyes quickly, embarrassed, hoping no one noticed. A couple who had been whispering earlier now sat in silence, hands resting close but not touching. This music did something strange. It reminded people of moments they'd forgotten. A missed chance, a younger dream, a version of themselves they once believed in. No one spoke. The waitress opened her eyes briefly and glanced at the room. For a second, fear returned. She saw faces turned toward her. So many eyes. So much attention. Then she looked back at the keys. She didn't stop. She let the music carry. Her. She remembered the first time she ever played in front of someone. How her hands shook then, too. How someone had told her softly, "You don't play like you're practicing. You play like you're living." At the time, she hadn't understood what that meant. Now she did. The final part of the piece slowed. The notes stretched, gentle and full. It felt like a goodbye and a promise at the same time. Her fingers pressed the last key. The sound faded. Silence returned to the hall. But this silence was different. It was warm, heavy with feeling. For a moment, no one moved. No one clapped. No one spoke. The waitress felt her heart drop. Had she done something wrong? She stood up slowly, her legs feeling weak. She bowed her head slightly. It's more out of habit than confidence. Then one person began to clap. Just one, then another, then another. The sound grew quickly, filling the room like a wave. Applause echoed against the high walls. People stood. Some smiled widely. Others clapped with wet eyes. The waitress froze. She had imagined many endings to this moment. None of them looked like this. She felt her throat tighten. Her chest rose and fell quickly as she tried to breathe. She wasn't sure what to do. She wasn't sure who she was now. A staff member approached her carefully. Not with anger, but with surprise. Then respect. The event organizer followed. Their expression was unreadable at first. "You play beautifully," he said quietly. The waitress nodded, unable to speak. "I didn't know," the organizer added. "We didn't know." She nodded again. A guest stepped forward next. Then another. They didn't ask her name. They didn't ask for details. They simply thanked her. One said, "I forgot how music could feel like that." Another said that was honest. "I needed that tonight." The waitress listened, still unsure if this was real. Later, when the event began to return to its usual rhythm, she stepped away from the piano. Her job wasn't over. Plates still needed clearing. Glasses still needed filling. But something had changed. People looked at her differently now. Not above her. Not past her at her. As she worked, guests smiled. Some nodded warmly. A few asked questions. Simple ones. "Have you played for long? Do you perform anywhere?" She answered softly. Truthfully, she said she used to play more. That life got busy. That she never planned to play tonight. They listened at the end of the night. When the hall emptied and the lights dimmed, the waitress stayed behind to help clean. Her body felt tired, but her mind was wide awake. The piano sat quietly again. She walked over and touched its smooth surface. "Thank you," she whispered. Unsure why, as she turned to leave, the event organizer stopped her. "I don't want to make promises," they said, "but if you ever want to play here again properly, let me know." Her heart skipped. "Really?" she asked. They nodded. Talent like that shouldn't stay hidden. She went home late that night. The city felt quieter than usual. Or maybe she felt louder. Inside, she sat on her bed and stared at her. Hands, the same hands that had carried trays, the same hands that had carried music. She didn't suddenly believe her life would change overnight. She didn't expect doors to open just because of one moment, but something inside her shifted. She allowed herself to imagine again, not fame, not applause, just possibility. In the days that followed, life returned to normal in many ways. She went to work. She paid bills. She cooked simple meals. She worried about the future, like she always had. But now, when she passed the piano at work, she no longer looked away. She stood taller. She practiced again at home, even if only for a short while. Even if her fingers felt stiff at first, she reminded herself that dreams don't disappear just because they are quiet. Weeks later, she was invited back, not as a waitress, as a pianist. The hall looked the same. The lights still sparkled. The piano still waited, but she felt different. This time when she sat down, she didn't feel like she was stealing a moment. She felt like she had earned it. The applause came again that night. But it wasn't the loudest part. The loudest part was inside her. She learned something important from that first night, something she carried with her always. People often place limits on others without knowing their story. And sometimes, we place limits on ourselves too. But courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes it sounds like a soft note in a silent room. And sometimes, it is enough to change everything.